Hey, aloha everybody. This is my first shot talking to you all on. Uh, oh, here we go. So this is my first shot talking to you all on Osaka Boys. I have no subscribers yet, so uh, I'm gonna talk like no one's listening because I don't think anyone is. That's the magic about this. Uh, First and foremost, let me tell you about myself. My name is Marcus Landsberg. I've been an attorney for 20 years in the state of Hawaii. I moved to Hawaii in 2001. And we retired after the pandemic because I realized I wanted to spend more time with my kids. I wanted to try new things. And before I moved to Honolulu, before I started law school, I'd lived in Osaka and I spoke with my wife, who I married while I was in Hawaii. I spoke with my wife and we discussed it and we decided that maybe what's best for the kids is to decide to move to Osaka or move to Japan and see what's going on. And there's a lot of things that go into that. At some point, I'll talk to everybody about that at some point. But yeah, so that's what it is. So this is our new place. This is the study room. It's super messy right now. You can see, no, here. That's the laundry where that goes. We don't have a dryer yet, but we are going to buy a dryer. I've seen some other videos that say Japanese people don't use dryers. I think we're going to. This is wait, this is my jacket. That's where I hang it out. Oh, that's my band-aid. And yeah, I just figured I'd talk to you guys for a minute about what I'm gonna do now that I'm semi-retired. I don't like saying retired because we're not really retired, but let's see what it is. So this is everyone keeps asking why we decided to move to Japan and get out of Hawaii. First and foremost is why would you ever leave Hawaii, right? And I don't want to say anything negative because I loved Hawaii and it was great we were living there. But when I was looking at my kids and looking at their opportunities, I wanted them to have a larger world. And that's almost 100% what we decided. If that's not 100%, that's the North Star that everything kept coming back to. So, what we did was figure out where in the world I could live the best while also having them the greatest opportunities. Obviously, Los Angeles, we looked at, Arkansas, different parts of the South, places in Texas. But at the end of the day, we all came back to one thing, and that was Japan was going to be amazing. So, over the course of these videos, I'm going to play for you and what we do as the Osaka Boys, which is me, my two sons, and then my wife, who's an honorary Osaka boy. What we're going to do is go to any number of parks, any number of activities, any number of things we do to keep the kids busy, entertained, and keep expanding the world, keeping them learn. Just the difference in the different types and amount of parks we have. When I walk my kid to school from our house now here in Japan, we pass, I think it's 9 different playgrounds, not just green areas, but different playgrounds on the way to his school. And to me, that's amazing. To me, that's exactly what we're looking at. One train away, they have something called Kids Paradise, which is this it's a 4-story play area. One of the slides is actually closed. The largest slide is closed, and it's still 4 stories. And then there's like a black hole slide that goes down and is spinning like this, which I don't even fit in. Like that's how amazing it is. I wouldn't be able to go down with them if I tried. I didn't. I thought about it. Um, my wife appealed to me and said, if you get stuck, I don't think they can get you out. So I did not do that. But we have that the 2 stops away looks like an old west wilderness town. It's just amazing. All the things and all the opportunities we have here. And then Friday and Saturday night, if the kids go to sleep early, I usually escape and hang out with the other Osaka boys, the ones who are a little bit older, get in a little bit of trouble. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if that's on the channel yet. Should it be? I don't know. You tell me. So that's what I'll tell you about. We live north of Osaka. Everywhere it seems to be about 30 minutes to drive, but we live north by about 30 minutes. Um, what do I want to tell you guys that you need to know about me and us? Oh, um, I was a successful criminal defense lawyer in Honolulu for, I don't know, 15, 16 years. 17, I think. I was a public defender for a number of years. Then I decided to go out on my own, represent people on my own. We did very well. I did fine. And then in the last year, based on there's a Supreme Court decision called Thompson, and there's some other things going on. We were to clean up about 90, 95% of my cases. I had like two other cases we had to finish. And then the idea was I going to reinvest this money into the business, or was I going to see if now's the time? So many people save money until they retire and then they never get a chance to spend it. They're either too old, it goes to medical, or uh, they can't appreciate it anymore, right? And the goal was to find a different way to do that. Number one. Number two was to do it when my kids are still young and we can still enjoy their experiences, where their still eyes are still open to life. And they're learning. I also want them to learn Japanese, to learn a different language, just to see if it helps the brain work better. Because everything I've heard is learning two languages helps the brain work better. So that's what we decided to do. Uh, Finding a place in Japan was not easy. A lot of people think it's going to be super. I thought it was going to be super easy. It seems I forgot that they don't have the same level of equal protection. For example, as a lawyer, especially as a criminal defense lawyer, I'm deeply versed in you cannot discriminate against someone for race, religion, creed, things of that nature. And here, when we tried to move into a particular place, um, they gave us the Japanese no. Now, it wasn't a no, you can't do it. It was a we need one more thing. And when they did that 4 or 5 times, and finally I gave up. It was only after I gave up where the next day I said, oh my God, I think I just realized what happened. I think I realized what just happened was they said no to us without saying no. And that's part of the joy of what we're going to get when we come back here, is that I'm going to start looking for different things. I'm going to start looking for new things and see how we do it differently. So uh, we weren't able to move to Hiroshima. That was the original goal. We wanted to move to Hiroshima. But because I didn't have a Japanese bank account, we had the money, but we didn't have a Japanese bank account. And we didn't have a Japanese guarantor who could promise that we were going to pay. They wouldn't let us move in, among other things. We did have a guarantor, but they said because he wasn't Japanese, he's been here 30 years, but because he wasn't Japanese, they wouldn't accept him. And that was sort of the moment where I realized they're just going to say no, no matter what. They're just not going to say, excuse me, they're going to say one more thing no matter what. They're never going to say no. So that was an eye-opener that I'd forgotten because I'd been here 20 years ago. You'll hear me talk a lot about that. But it's not the same. But maybe I didn't run into the same things back then. And so there's a lot of things I didn't realize, I didn't know, right? So we have that. Well, what we finally ended up doing is we found a place in what's called UR. What's it stand for? It's not urban research. Urban renewal, I think is what it's called. Something like that. Anyway, UR is the equivalent of Japanese housing, either housing or housing projects, right? So what we were able to do was find a UR place, and UR, the requirements are this. They rent especially to elderly, youth, people without money, people with low income, things of that nature, right? Now, it's not exclusively low income. It used to be. It's not anymore, at least not where we live. It's not anymore. But you have to have one of two things. You either have to have, I think the number is 100 times, it might be 10 times the amount of monthly rent, and show that to them in a Japanese bank account, which they can guarantee. Now, we had trouble making a Japanese bank account. The banks wanted me to live here for 6 months. The ones who didn't require me to live here for 6 months said I needed a phone number to open a bank account. When I went to go get a phone number, a cell phone number, when I went to go get a cell phone number, they said I needed a bank account to get a cell phone number. You can see how I was very frustrated that week, as you can imagine. So what we did find out is, so, in Japan, unlike America, in Japan, unlike America, the post office runs a bank. And you can use the Japanese post office as a bank. So there's actually a nationalized bank. It's just the post office. There's been some proposals in America to do that. And it's an interesting proposal. I'll tell you how it works out for me here. But the post office didn't have a problem. They let me go ahead and open a bank account. There were some things we had to jump through, but it didn't seem to be much of an issue. So that happened. Anyway, we were able to get a UR house by putting down you either do, I think it's either 10 or 100 times the amount of money you have in the bank account. It must be 10 times the amount of money you have in the bank account guaranteed. We didn't have that. But what we did have is a year of rent guaranteed. We already had a year of rent. You can pay a year of rent in advance. And if you pay a year of rent in advance, then you can secure housing. So what we did is we just went ahead and paid. And what it turned out to is the year of rent we paid was equivalent to just about 2.5 months of the rent I was paying for a 2-bedroom place in Hawaii. Now, our 2-bedroom place was huge. It was beautiful. Ocean View. It was insane. But so there's differences. But for the 3 bedroom place we have here was the same amount as 2.5 months as of rent for a year. It was 2.5 months of rent for the place in Hawaii. So I've already paid my rent for the year, so you can cross that expense off the list. Our health insurance, now we're on public health insurance. It's the equivalent of Obamacare, I suppose. 60-ish dollars a month for all 4 of us. In Hawaii, I was paying 1,500, so you can cut that one off the list. As far as closing my practice, I no longer pay marketing. I no longer pay office rent. I no longer pay parking, which alone was hundreds of dollars in downtown Honolulu. Um, and then food, when we go out to eat, what I would pay for one meal in Honolulu lunch downtown for myself, I basically buy for all 4 of us here. So financially, I'm not working exactly. So we're living off savings. That being said, the amount I'm spending compared to the amount I was spending before is night and day. Now, here's the issue with uh, finances, though. When you rent a house in Japan, and this is very important, be very clear upon what you get with the house. Because when we rented this place, in America, a house would always come with a stove, with an oven. It would always come with a refrigerator, among other things. May or may not come with a bed and some other things. Even if it's not furnished, they'll be partially furnished or semi-furnished. Japan, you get nothing. So drapes, we had to buy all new drapes. I don't know how those cost so much, but those cost a lot. We had to buy the refrigerator for the house. Now we were lucky. Basically all of our appliances are by Don Quixote, which is the cheap version. I think Walmart is overselling it of what it is. It's a cheap tchotchke store, but it's good stuff. So what we have to buy? We have to buy a refrigerator, washing machine, which is that one back there that I showed you before. We had to buy a stove. Now in Japan, you very rarely get an oven unless you're in a massive house. But what you do is you get a little fish drawer, but you get a stovetop. So we had to get a stovetop, refrigerator. We haven't bought air conditioners yet because we're headed into the winter. The air conditioners are almost $2,000. If someone knows a way to get one cheaper, you let me know. So we're not going to get that for a little while, hopefully until next summer. And we had to buy a washing machine. We also bought a dryer, which hopefully is coming next month. It's just a lot of extra. And I think we're going to get a desktop dishwasher. Now, because we're renting, you can't get the dishwasher that pulls out, right? But I think you get a desktop one for about $300. And that part's a big. Oh, the other thing about finances is if you are thinking about moving to Japan or coming to Japan, and I guess that's what this video became because it's what I was planning to talk about before I got distracted, always. The other thing you want to think about is right now, based on the end of the dollar, although today the yen went back up just by a little bit, although went back up a little bit, it's basically 2 to 3. So whatever you could buy, what your dollar could buy in America, you only need 70 cents to buy that here in Japan. It's 70 cents American to buy that here in Japan, if that makes sense. Also check your credit card because right now I just buy everything on my credit card from the US. And then we pay with the US bank account. But if you could buy it with the American dollar, you're spending 70 cents instead of spending the full dollar until the prices equivocate or equalize. And then the prices in Japan will raise at some point. But because of that exchange rate, it was actually the perfect time. One of the things you learn in Hawaii is, one of the things I learned from my family is that life is all about timing. One of the things you learn in Hawaii is that there's a lot of waves that will come, and some you'll catch and some you won't. Some, if you catch the wrong wave, you can't catch the right one. But if you do catch the right wave, there's absolutely nothing better in the world. And I think us moving here now at exactly this time was the right wave to catch. And I didn't even know about the exchange rate and the difference at this point until we caught that wave. And now we're going to ride it in and see how far we can take it because I think it's working out. I don't want to talk about this forever. I'm talking to myself. What I do want to do, though, is put this up here. If you have any questions, you can put it in the comments. You can email it to me or contact me. There's a couple other ways. It's just the first thing. I might delete it later if it's If I said something I wasn't supposed to say, we'll see. Maybe I'll leave it up here forever as an example of what I did the first time. But I appreciate you guys very much watching this. If you did make it all the way to the end, and if you didn't, well, then you never. If you skipped the middle, then you didn't hear the secrets I told you in the middle of how to make $1,000,000 and retire at 46. All right. Well, thank you guys very much, and aloha and sayonara, I guess.